There, that's good enough.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the Sun Dragon Sideshow.
The Dear Becky and Lizzy edition.
Yes, it is Thursday. So Thursday is when we either take questions or we do things people have asked us to do within reason, usually related to knitting and crochet. And there is a limit. So we haven't hit it yet.
Later.
We haven't hit that yet. But, you know, some things we won't answer. Hi, I'm Rebecca. I am the owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in sunny and supposedly going to be super hot and nasty, but not as hot as a lot of our watchers, Brevard, North Carolina.
I'm Liz. I'm the minion there.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to ignore how hot it's going to get today. So I was surprised you started doing stuff there because aren't you going to do stuff at the beginning here?
Yeah.
Did you? Did you just mess it up?
I did. So.
Oh, did it pop off?
It did.
Ooh.
Yeah. So.
This is why I don't multitask on camera.
Yes, but I don't talk with my hands.
I know, and that usually doesn't happen to you. You're turning red. You okay?
I'm fine.
Okay. I'm remembering now that I didn't get my little tissue for my name tag. So my metal name tag has been, I thought it stopped doing it, so I stopped doing this. It's been, like, if it's right next to my skin, it annoys my skin and makes a red mark, and it's all itchy and hurty. And
she gets a little irritation.
I have a little irritation spot here, so I'm like, and I thought it was okay, because, like, for a year now, especially when it's warm out,
yeah,
I've been wearing tissue wrapped around the backside of the metal, of the magnet. And I thought, oh, look, it's okay now. With these dresses and things, I'm just slapping it on, going to work. And I'm like, I'm fine. As I'm getting into bed last night, I'm like, why do I itch so much? And then this morning, I put two and two together. Got a big red mark there. Anyway, it's one of the things I haven't gotten done yet this morning.
Probably a slight metal allergy.
Yeah, maybe it's nickel. Because I can do stainless steel and doesn't seem to hurt. So it must be something else. But there are ways around it. I don't have to give up my cute name tag. So, anyway, squirrel.
Not good.
So we had a request, right? Was this in a comment or just at a knit night?
Knit night. Okay. Everybody talking about would love to see Liz pack a package.
So, oh, this is in the way.
Yeah.
Remove projects off the winding station. Oh, look. There's a pile of yarn here. Liz is packing and receiving and shipping. What do you call it?
I am in charge of.
I can't remember what it is now.
Receiving and shipping
yes.
and receiving.
That kind of thing. Yeah. So I don't try to pack anything anymore because she's very good at it, and I would mess it up.
So I have 10 balls of Cascade 220 Superwash.
This is very similar to an order we just shipped.
Was an order we just shipped.
Shout out to Jenna.
Yes. And all of it is going to fit in this.
And I want to say this is, when I order it, I think this is like an 11 by 14 bubble mailer. It may or may not say, I don't think it says on it. But this is about 11 by 14 bubble mailer. So it is, it's got the little bubble thickness inside, padded. So I'm just holding this. You can do your thing.
Fine. So
I don't do this. I let her do it, and I'm not usually watching either. So I got the 3, 4. See, being put on the spot doesn't help, but she's really good at what she does. Oh! She can get 4 into the bottom. There you go.
4 into the bottom.
She also sometimes takes over packing up our bags for in-house shoppers because she knows how to put things in nice and neat. It's gonna be 8, right?
Yep.
If anyone likes this color palette, let us know.
And I pulled them at random out of a bucket. Anyway.
Okay, so you zip it up, and we should before you keep going, we should mention this is a 2-gallon, I think, hefty. Mm-hmm. It's the jumbo. Mm-hmm. So this is a 2-gallon Ziploc bag, hefty Ziploc, whatever But you've left about an inch or two.
Yep.
And people are like, you must use a vacuum. A vacuum thing to get the air out. No, this is what Liz does. Oh, it just sighed. And then, yep.
Close it quick.
Close it quick. There have been boxes I've had to like help hold shut.
Yes.
But did we get that? Did you get that one enough? I always find if I do something on camera, it's not going to work right.
Well, sometimes it doesn't work the first time either. But I know I can get this in a bubble mailer because I did.
Because you did, yeah. She's not at her normal packing station either. So if you need me to help, I was going to say I would help, but then it wouldn't be authentic. Liz does this all by herself. So, oh, that's looks so much better. Oh my gosh. And we're not going to seal this because then we've wasted a mailer. If this was someone's actual order. But see, you can see how she can
It'll seal.
It'll seal.
Ta-da!
So that is 1,000 grams of yarn.
Yes.
Right there in a bubble mailer.
And it's going to sit
you
there.
You may applaud.
I want to see what happens during the course of the show. Okay. Yes, because I really want to put on packages like this.
I can't hear it going, but
I really want to put on packages contents under pressure.
Yeah, or well, there's something worse you wanted to say.
Like might explode.
Might explode.
Yarn might explode.
But that's not language you want to use with the post office.
No. So shout out to Jenna. We do know that as soon as she went unzipped her package, it went whoop.
She said it exploded like across her living room.
I've never seen that.
Yes, we've never done the unpacking version of it, and we could do it at the end of the show, but then it wouldn't be the same as it being like that for like 3 days.
Yeah.
On the way somewhere.
I do know that sometimes between the time that I get them in the bubble mailer and the time we put the sticker on them, some of the air has sucked back into the package.
So it's harder to get out of the package than it was to put in.
Yes.
That's why we say open carefully, because some people might actually have to slice the mailer off of the package because the pressure increases. But please be careful when you're doing that, because we don't want you to slice through the yarn. Either delicately like working with a knife through the layer. It's almost like dissection. Yeah. Or getting a scissor up under here and making sure you're not hitting the yarn. Yep. Like when we open packages that come from the yarn company, we're very careful when we slice open. Like, they're not as under pressure as what we send to you. But we don't want to accidentally cut the yarn that's about to go on our shelves, because that's just no fun. So we had someone else who was asking how to use barber cords. And so this is not the best angle to show it necessarily, because we're kind of far away. But, oh, and I'm losing stitches here. Okay.
Oh, no.
It happens. It's because this is just tossed around the shop. I have the sleeves of my flax sweater on barber cords right now. But I wanted to show you how, say if we were doing the bottom, so this is new violets. I think I have to own a pair of violet barber cords. So we got a short one for
match
sleeve.
Your hair, kind of.
Kind of. Liz is working on getting me to re-dye it purple. Like, it's either wash it out and get it teal. I have one more pot of purple at home. I don't have the funds right now to get the teal yet, and I want to let this totally go before I go teal. But I could just be purple again. So, 2 short ones, 1 long one. Here's 1 long one. I'm probably not going to put the whole bottom of this on the barber cords, but I could. So the barber cords they're silicone tubes, and they're hollow in there. And so the tip has to be pointy enough. The person asking is using wooden needles. They may not be pointy enough. And there's a point where these get too big that they don't work. But I'm actually putting the tip into the hollow tube, and I'm jamming it on so that it's firmly on there. Now, if I yank hard enough, it will come off. Like when transferring stitches, sometimes you can yank hard enough that it does come off. So you have to be careful of that. And so I put it on so it's pretty firmly attached. And I ease the stitches up. I have no idea if I'm near enough to the microphone, but I ease the stitches up here and I gently start sliding them onto the barber cord. And if they get jammed up on the barber cord, like right here, if I'm going to slide them, instead of just yanking, I'm going to hold where my cord is connected to my needles right there before I slide these down so it doesn't accidentally pop off, because that's sadness.
And despair.
Sadness and despair. And sometimes I have to ease it over, like give it a little tug like this to make sure it doesn't get caught on the tip, because there's a little bit of a join there when it happens. And when I get to the end, I'm pulling it out in the middle here. When I get to the end, I use my thumbnail to ease it off. And then you can tie the ends, because see, that's what I've done with my sleeves. I wrap it around my finger and pull it through, because you can unwork that later. That will hold until you untie it. And it's not like yarn where the knot gets so tight you can't untie it, usually. If I'm trying to put it back on, it's just the reverse, where, and I've got a lost stitch there, I'll get back later. I'm going to tug on this until it doesn't want to move anymore. But I'm also very cautious when I put it back on. I've had it happen where I try to jam all my stitches up against the needle and I keep pushing, and it actually disconnects the barber cord, the silicone tube, from the needle. So I get it close, and then I work right in here and make sure that I'm not applying too much pressure to have it pop off. And if that does happen, what I do is I leave the barber cord right where it is, and I try to get the needle back up through the stitches and reattach to the barber cord. Now, the person who is asking this question, and again, it's better if you have questions to email Liz and the email address, because we found this question, but sometimes we're not going to find them in the comments on YouTube videos. What's the email?
Liz at sundragonartandfiber.com.
Because then we can hang on to it. We did find this one. So I slid this all the way up, and then I can pop this off again. The person who asked this question sounded like she was having difficulty with her wood needles, and I can see two reasons that could be happening. The needles are too big or too small, but with wood, wood doesn't, you can get wood teeny tiny, but they're fragile. If this barber cord is probably the equivalent of like a size 2 needle or so, something in that range, and something smaller than that, it's going to be hard to slide your stitches onto it because it's bigger than your needle. It also could be that your needle's too big or the tip is too blunt. We like pointy needles here at the shop, so I don't have a lot of options to show you. When it's a snub nose needle, this might not fit or stick. I realized when this question came up, we haven't tried these on wood needles to see how well they stick. So we carry the Chow-Goo Bamboo, and we carry Likey in the Driftwood and Indigo. Those are our wood needles. So I got one that's on the bigger side, but the Chow-Goo Patinas have pretty sharp tips on them. This is a 10. And I'm just going to try, yeah, that just barely fits on, but it sticks. It's just, I can only get like a centimeter or two onto that tip, because this is a bigger needle, and if I pull too hard, it's going to come off a lot easier. So that, I wanted to check that. If it doesn't have much, if it's a rougher wood, these might not stick as well. We really just haven't experimented with that. So I'm going to check a 10 Likey. That Likey has a nicer varnish on it, and it might actually stick to the varnish, but it's more snub-nosed. So again, I can just barely get the tip on. I could just barely get the littlest bit onto the end of that needle. But I do have to yank to get it back off. A shorter needle, I'm like, which package? Not shorter, smaller. That's the word I was going for. This is a Chow-Goo 7, and I'll do this right up close to the camera. If I get that on there, if the tips are not super sharp, this I can get a little more up on that end of that needle, but it will hold. So you really have to get that on the tip of your needles, how they work best. I've seen someone try to thread this through on its own without attaching it to the tip of the needle. That's a little more complicated because it doesn't have a tip itself. So it really, if you can get it stuck on your needle, that is really the best way to use the barber cords.
I have, as a hack, I have put it on a double point needle.
Like a smaller double point.
Smaller than my stitches. Like my needle was too big. I think it was like a 13 or something. It was too big to go on the barber cord. And I needed to...
That's really smart.
I needed to back out, so I needed to make a lifeline. And so I stuck the barber cord on a double point and used the double point as the needle to kind of pull it around. And then I could pull the double point off and tie a knot.
That's a very good idea, I think, for either if your wood needles are too snub-nosed or the needle's too big. Stick this on a double point, on a small double point, and use it like a needle to thread kind of through. I think that's a great idea. So, cool. I've also found with my barber cords, some of them dry out a little bit over time. We've have someone who thinks like one color, she wouldn't say which, the dye might make it a little crisper or make it like where it's not as pliable. I find sometimes I either split or get a crack towards the end of them, but I just trim that off. I mean, they're 30 and 60 inches. Unless I have to keep doing that over time, I'm not losing too much length on them. So, all right. So we also have a few questions, so we're going to try to answer, right?
Yes.
So let's see what we have for that. We'll get through what we can. If we feel like we're shortchanging anyone, we can revisit another week. So, what you got?
Hold on, I'm pulling the right inbox up so that... Okay. Question, and this one comes with pictures of boo-boo.
Well, and I gotta say before we answer this one with the pictures of the boo-boo, that's sometimes hard. It's sometimes hard to diagnose from pictures, and that's not necessarily what this format is for. Is to diagnose everyone's individual issues. We'll try, like, we think we might have an answer for this person, but just know that may not be what we can always do, and we may not always have time for it too. But Liz looked at the picture and has a possible theory. So, but just know, like bigger topics are sometimes cool for it. Like, this is a hard format for both pictures and for us to show you, like I just did with the barber cords. That's why my tips and tricks channel, I try to have a camera that can focus in on my hands and what I'm doing, because sometimes seeing this backwards or seeing this far away from the camera is
we're not going to be able to like show you an example of we can talk through it, but that's about, you know.
Anyway, so but let's tackle what we can.
Question. Attached is a picture of a 1x1 ribbing with a boo-boo. I have done this before. Please tell me what I have done. How do I fix it? Do you have a yarn recommendation for amigurumi? A large color range is important for this as my next planned project has 17 colors. Liz, your hair looks like it would be hot. Do you wash it as you would normally wash hair? My granddaughter is wanting to do this. Thank you. I'm going to start at the bottom and
I was going to say, let's go backwards. Yeah.
It can be.
What is it? What is it?
My hair.
Okay. Because not everyone remembers what we just said. So go ahead.
I mix pearl fiber into it, into the raw wool in the summertime, so that there's a little bit of cooling with the pearl fiber.
Can I?
Yes.
Which I want to make clear here that
we don't carry.
No. Well, yeah. That's not. Let me finish. This time with her hair, with the pearl fiber, that means that she has actually used a blending board, and she's made roving and rolags, and she's spun her own hair.
Yeah.
The last time you have actually braided yarn from a shop into your hair too.
Yes.
And I don't know if
can't add the pearl fiber to.
That's true. Yeah. But I just want to make sure if her granddaughter is wanting to do this, she may or may not have the capability of spinning her own yarn. Yeah. But just to know, if we're just doing it with straight up yarn, that's different. And I'm gonna look. You keep talking about your hair.
Anyway, So if I do just straight roving, or straight yarn, I don't have a way to add the cooling pearl fiber into it. So I'll do less pieces of yarn in there.
Fewer pieces.
Fewer.
Sorry.
Yes.
That's my dad. Oh, my dad just came out of my mouth. With
I knew that wasn't working right, but
Yeah,
my brain was like, there's another word. I don't know what it is.
Less is amount, fewer is quantity, whatever. Anyway, my dad does that to me. I don't.
So I do wash it as I would my hair. Well, I thin down some shampoo, wash my roots, and then rinse it out really good. And then I put a wool wash on it, like
Eucalyptus or
Eucalyptus
soak.
or soak or something.
So you put on the dreads themselves, you put something you would wash hand knits.
Yeah, most of the time I
that.
take less than about a quarter teaspoon or less of the Eucalyptus into a great big cup, and I fill it with water. And then after I've squeezed all the water and made sure there's no shampoo left, squeezed all the water out, I pile it on my head and I dump the wash over all the wool so I don't smell like wet sheep.
And wool wash is neat, like the Eucalyptus or the soak, because it's no rinse. It's like you don't have to. You can rinse it out, but if it stays in your wool, your hand knit, it's not going to ruin it.
Yeah.
So.
And I don't smell like wet sheep. So that's it. I put all my braids in, and it takes you a long time. Most people, when they find out how long it takes me to put in, kind of bow out. It takes me like anywhere from 8 to 12 hours.
And you usually do it over like 2 days.
I do it over 2 days. So it takes a while. Mm-hmm. A, because I haven't found anywhere, and B, I don't have the money to pay somebody to braid it in. So, yeah. Okay. Backing up.
The amigurumi. I don't know if we have a good yarn for that. What a lot of people use, and one of the things I was talking about with Liz before we filmed, she told me some of these questions last night, is we don't necessarily have enough information to help you out with some of this question because it depends on the pattern and what thickness of yarn they're calling for. And because if we could say, oh, X yarn is great, but it's thicker than what you need, and your little amigurumi guy is going to come out like 3 times bigger than he should and take more yarn. But a lot of people use cotton or something stiffer for amigurumi, but also something that has a consistent thickness to it and a tight twist to it. Something that's going to split or be thick, unless you want a funky texture to your amigurumi. And for those who don't know what we're talking about, the little crocheted figures, like this guy. This is the amigurumi is the Japanese name for these, doing a little figurine. I know there's probably a more technical translation, but that's how I think about it. So this was 100% cotton. This is a kit I got out at the Outer Banks. We don't have it in the shop, but it was more like a sport or fingering weight, multiple ply cotton, and it was a teeny tiny hook. It was like a smaller hook than we even sell in the shop, I think, that came with the kit. So something that needs like 17 colors. Sometimes you might have to order that online. Another shop might have something. Like, we've got a lot of yarn that has a lot of colors, but you may not want to make it out of wool. And it depends on, is it going to be a kid's toy that needs to be washed? There's a lot of factors that go into that. I'm thinking of our thinner yarns, that might be more plant fiber and machine washable. It's just more, it's got a firmer construction, so when you stuff it, it's not going to be like oddly shaped. Sometimes wool has too much give to it, and then it's hard to control the finished shape of what you're making. And that's where the knowledge of amigurumi stuff ends. But I think the thinnest thing we have in the shop right now is probably the bamboo pop. Yeah. And we're low in stock on that. So by saying you need 17 colors, you may have a specific 17 or bright colors or pale colors in mind, And we're going to go, I don't know if we have that. So to match someone's expectation with reality has been hard lately. So
but we've joked with a lot of people lately that that's unicorn yarn or has the potential of being unicorn yarn.
And it's like, you want XYZ in Z. No. XYZ in R, or something.
And our unicorns and elves in the back pit of despair have really been failing.
Yeah. So to have the magic yarn everyone wants. But so, this is the Circulo company, and I'd love to bring in their yarn. We just need the budget and the space for it, and we don't have that currently. So we'll see. Moving forward, we'll see. But are we back to their...
We're back to the attached picture.
Okay, and the picture, and...
I can hold the phone up.
Yeah. The picture shows the ribbing, and it looks like this person has tried to fix it. And there's a loop that kind of sticks out and goes back in. And that's the kind of loop that I would expect to see if someone at the edge of their work, because it goes over and back. If someone was kind of trying to rip down on the edge of their work, they'd have the strand that worked the end of the row and then work the beginning of the next row. So that's hard to get back in. And Liz, what did you think, which I think is correct, when you looked at this picture?
When I saw this picture the first time, opening it yesterday, I was like, oh, they turned around in the middle of their row.
Yeah, what we think happened, I agree with Liz, is most likely that you put it down to go do something or just to take a break, especially if this is like a hat and you're knitting in a circle. And it's 1 by 1 ribs, so it looks the same on the back and the front. And when you picked it back up, it was flipped inside out or something else, where you went back on your stitches. Instead of continuing to go in a circle, you started going the other way without realizing it. And you probably saw like a hole or a weird gap. And if you're able to count your rows, on one side you may have had one more row than on the other. Might have been a few stitches in there. You've essentially created a wall to go back. And but when you're ripping down to try to fix that, it's harder to figure out if that happened. What do you got?
Oh, I'm looking at the shape of her stitches, and they even change because you can tell it went.
Mm-hmm. So what probably happened? So my rule of thumb, when you are in the middle of a flat row, or if you are knitting in a circle, you're knitting it around like making a hat, when you pick up the needles, like I have an example here. I was going to drink some coffee, but I'll just put that out of the way so I don't knock it over. So I'm knitting the torso of this. And because it's not ribbing it, I can mostly tell, and I'm going to fix this stitch I can mostly tell what's the front and what's the back, because one side has V's and one side has bumps. But when you pick it up to start knitting, and I started to do stitches in here. Yeah, okay. When you pick it up to start knitting, the two needles, the yarn will feel like it's attached to one of them. It's attached to this needle. It's leading right up to the stitches on this needle and not this one. There's no working yarn hanging off of this one. And my rule of thumb is when you pick it up, no matter which hand you hold the tension in, if you hold it in your right hand, or if you hold it, that was my left. If you hold it in your right hand or your left hand, the yarn should be attached to the needle that goes in your right hand. If I picked it up this way and the yarn was in the needle, that's Robin, she's here early. If the yarn was in the needle that was in,
I'll go tell her.
Okay. Well, I think they were going to find a chair out there. I don't think they're yanking on the door. Anyway, we have guests today. It's going to be really fun. If the yarn is attached to the needle that is in your, I'm listening to sounds outside. It's distracting me. Your left hand here. I'm gonna start knitting back on, and I'm gonna have a hole right here. If the yarn is over here, it's got to be in the needle that's attached to your right hand to keep going forward in the correct motion. And I say middle of a straight row or knitting in a circle, because when you start a flat row, a straight row, a flat row, whichever you want to call it, the yarn has to be in the needle that's on your left hand. And once you start going, then it looks like this. For how to fix that, the only way to fix that is to rip back down to where it happened.
Yep.
There's no way. I in this picture, the person's tried to go down and fix it and pull it back up again without having to undo more of their work. Unless you can just be okay with a hole there. You need to rip back down to where that happened to start going in the correct direction again.
Yep.
So there's no way to magically make it look nice again. There's always going to be something there. You could sew it up with scrap yarn when you're done if you don't want to undo the rows that you've done. Like if you had noticed this at the end and been like, just sew it shut on the inside and move on. But yeah. Okay. What else we got?
Second question. Dear Rebecca and Liz, thank you so much for all your hard work on our behalf. My question revolves around finishing the bottom of sweaters. I do not like ribbing on the bottom. It cuts across my tummy, which is not a good look for me. Could you suggest some alternative bottom treatments for sweaters that do not pull in, but also do not cause the bottom to roll up? This could be crochet as well as knitted. Many thanks, Jenna.
Okay, so one thing is one option is to make it longer so it doesn't cut across your belly, right? But not everyone likes the longer look. So it sounds like it's that ribbing gathers. And a lot of sweaters call for the ribbing to be done on a smaller needle because they're trying to make it look uniform to the size of the rest of the sweater. If you want it to be bigger down there, you could try it on the same needle, or we could just talk about things that aren't ribbing. Absolutely.
I do not go to a smaller needle for ribbing, especially around my tummy. Because I crop them to go over my dresses, and if it pulls in, it's a bad look too. I will do seed stitch.
This is all to avoid the rolling. If you just ended in stockinette, it will roll up. That is just what stockinette does, which is
will roll
straighten
up.
it. I-cord, sometimes when you block it, it will stay down. It depends on how big the I-cord is and how heavy it is.
Yeah.
But it might want to roll up too. And honestly, I think I-cord, well, it's a nice finished edge. It adds bulk. So I don't know if I would necessarily want to do that one either. But yeah, seed stitch, garter, which if you're going in a circle is going to be a row of knit and a row of purl. When you do a crocheted edge, like what kind of general thing do you do?
When I do a crocheted edge, like
depends on how fancy you want your crocheted edge to get.
I crochet 2 knit stitches together with either 1 crochet stitch and a chain 1 or 2 crochet stitches in the same 2 space.
But you don't bind off and then crochet.
I don't bind off and then crochet. I just basically transfer it straight to crochet and then do whatever pattern. Generally it's scallops or something.
And if you wanted to keep it simpler and not do scallops or something fancy down there, I would still recommend several rows of crochet after that to make it heavy enough to not... Because you need to do something that's going to overpower the will of the stockinette for the majority of it. That's why when you make a scarf, if it's mostly stockinette in the center and then it's just a little bit of ribbing or a little bit of seed stitch or something on the outside edge, it may not be enough to compensate. Like a baby blanket. You need a good 10 stitches or more sometimes to compensate for what the blanket wants to do. There's a point where a baby blanket might decide to lay flat because it's big enough and wide enough. But, talking about a sweater.
I tend to do 3 rows at the bare minimum. 1, the crocheting it off the needles row, a 2nd row, and then the 3rd row with the scallops, just so there's enough weight to hang.
To help it from wanting to flip up.
Yep.
Yeah. So, all of those, hopefully, like, it's, you gotta, the trial and error might be part of it to figure out if that's going to accent the spot you don't want to be accented, or if that's going to hang nicely and put the focus somewhere else. I don't know. So, by trying it, you'll figure it out. Because we can recommend it, and you'll be like, that didn't work at all. I don't know. So, anyway. Is that it?
We have one more.
We do. Okay.
Yes. Good morning, Becky and Liz. Liz, you used to wear berets, and my question is, what is your favorite one that you have made, and why do you wear them instead of hats? Do you have any favorite patterns that you have and are so generous to share a few with us YouTube fans. Rebecca, have you made any berets and have any favorite patterns? I have seen so many hats you have shown off on the show, so I guess you prefer hats. Thank you both again for all you do. Love knitting in the dark.
Did you prep any hats?
I do.
I'm like, I didn't prep any hats. What?
I do 2 patterns. It's the
Columbia beret.
The Columbia beret that's crocheted, and the fisherman wife spray.
If I can put that in the comments, I will, but I don't know if I can. So.
I'll send you a link for
okay.
it. It was on Revelry.
Okay.
It's knit. Those 2 I wear them more like I pull my hair back and I wear them just here and then tuck my hair inside.
It's a fashion thing.
Yeah.
More.
I tend not to like just a pull-on hat. Mm-hmm. Just because, I don't know.
I do the pull-on hats more for shop samples, and in the winter I wear hats and only to keep my head warm. I don't really wear them as more fashion-y things, and you wear them as more fashion-y things. So.
And then when I wasn't wearing my berets, I would wear my gnome hats. Mm-hmm. Basically the same thing.
Long stocking cap.
But it drags on the ground, so you have to put not pom-pom, fringe tassel. You have to put the tassel over your shoulder, otherwise you'll be dragging it all over. And I wear it like a parrot, so my tassel. Mm-hmm. So
and people who haven't been watching for a while may not have seen that. I don't know if we really showed them off on the show at all. But like right behind Liz, up above, that's one of the few kind of beret tam type things that I've made, and that's the Tellens tam. I tried berets when I was younger, like a younger knitter, in terms of just having them more like the Parisian berets. And it's probably the yarn I was using. I was using like acrylic and stuff. It never looked right. And so I didn't make them anymore. But blocking those was kind of weird. Honestly, it was probably the material I was using. But I haven't had luck with having a beret look good on my head.
I don't. So. I wear them more like almost a snood. Mm-hmm. Like just to pull my hair back up in versus the beret off the side. And yeah. I
don't actually make or am that fond of hats in general. Like I've made some hats to have some for the shop, and I there are some that I think are kind of cute, but I am addicted to sweaters right now, and shawls are kind of fun to make too, especially because shawls, like no matter what size they come out, they're fine, that kind of thing. Cowls a little, but sweaters and socks are kind of my happy place right now, and
hats, because people come in and want hat patterns.
Yeah, so it's not my happy place, but I'm making them because then we have them. So, some of the other things in the shop have been languishing on my needles because, anyway. We should go.
We should.
Are you going to check how that's doing?
Pull the package out.
I think that's bigger than, okay, ready? I can't pull it out. Are we gonna? Do you want to unzip it? I'm gonna give you the honors. I think that was harder to pull out than to put in. We're gonna watch it inflate. Boop. There you go. Awesome.
So yes, it reinflates.
They'll be fine. Yeah. Some people say some yarns won't reinflate so well, but we don't go as flat packed as some of the super vacuumed out people.
I don't ever use a vacuum sealer. And,
nope. It's just manual labor. We have Sit and Stitch tomorrow night from 7 to 9 p.m. and you can get in with the shop phone number
828-877-3550.
And we're gonna go greet Robin and I think it's her sister, maybe. Well, she'll remind me. Okay, bye!
Bye! Like, subscribe, ring the bell, all the fun stuff. Some days you reach over and some days you walk around.
I forgot again!